Greeting, greetings, everybody. I had a couple health challenges in the morning, both physical and mental. But this is going to be the weekly news for the month, the week ending, in April 12th, 2025. So this is the week that we saw some market manipulation and waffling on the tariffs. And the stock market goes up temporarily and then crashes again. So, yeah, this waffling right here, from the perspective that I'm coming from, which is, I don't want to call it accelerationism exactly. Accelerationism is exaggerated. It is a comical exaggeration of the kind of position. What accelerationists say is a comical exaggeration of the kind of position that I have about the need for for some kind of temporary suffering. Like, I've believed that we needed to have some kind of temporary economic suffering long before this election. I believed that it was something that could be helpful for us in the long term under a Harris administration or even a second Biden term. This is one of the least concerning things that I've frankly been seeing from the whole second Trump, so-called second Trump term. Again, that's what you call it, so-called. It's not. Remember, he's an insurrectionist. He's not allowed to be president. It's not legal. Anyway, I'm gonna be saying that for a long time until it becomes real. Until the institutions are saying that along with me. Anyway, so this is one of the least frightening things about the whole second Trump term. It's one of the reasons I'm not super scared about the environment just for the next 4 years. Anything beyond that is what scares me, but I'm not super scared for the environment just for the next 4 years, because the global economy is probably still going to crash. And would I have preferred to be let down gently? Sure. Would I prefer to have a more of an actual energy transition now up front rather than just buying time with an economic collapse? Sure. Is it going to suck to have less opportunities in my life? There's already a lot of things that I could be doing right now in the time that I'm managing this channel. Yes, it sucks that this regime is taking away opportunities from us, but as long as I can have some kind of purpose, as long as we can have some kind of purpose, and as long as we can stay fed, and we're pretty good at being poor. I am, my family is. I think that we'll be able to handle this fine personally. Some advice, by the way, for if the economy crashes, and there's a scarier idea, but if the economy does crash, which will be a relief in many ways because of worse fates that we could have, there are some good ideas. One of them is mend and make do. Just in terms of, and this is something that you should practice in general, get your electronics repaired rather than replacing them. I got a new phone It was a previous model of the Fairphone, and I still haven't switched to it quite yet because of issues with moving over the data. But it is, if you somehow have the money, whether it's because the economy didn't crash or you're just lucky, to get a new smartphone, go with an old model, pre 2022, before ChatGPT, before the AI boom, or go with a Fairphone. And yeah, there are some nice, appealing AI features. Like, I love, as somebody that likes to edit my photos and collect photos from the past and restage them sometimes, I love the idea of having generative fill, but is it worth being spied on all the time? No. And that's what these AI powered phones like Samsung S24, S25, if they come out with it, S23, do. All the new iPhones, they do it. They spy on you. And it's not worth it. So get either an old one, or if you need something that's a little newer, get something from the Fairphone brand. It may or may not have a tariff on it. I'm not sure. A lot of these are single package shipping, and that is usually evades tariffs, at least for now. It might not in the future, though. If I had known that, I might have waited a year and gotten the 5, and rather than doing this, if I had known that then. But I only learned that a couple months ago. That, by the way, is how long I've been procrastinating on moving off of this thing. But anyway, I went on a big tangent. But another thing that's good about Fairphones, other than the fact that they're secure, relatively speaking, they're pretty secure. They don't actively spy on you. Like an S25 is anti-secure. Like, it's secure against a gang, or it's secure against Tren de Aragua. You don't need to worry about Tren de Aragua. You don't need to worry about them. You need to worry about the actual government that is now a gang. That is now run by gangsters. So, yeah. Those phones are actively anti-secure. So, that's another reason. If you are, for whatever reason, getting a new one, go to Fairphone. If your Fairphone breaks down, buy replacement parts. If your other phone, I apologize. I have a life. If you have another phone, try to take it to a repair place. If you have old furniture, don't replace it. Retool it. It might look a little awkward, but it's worth it. So that's some good advice. Mend and make do. There's a lot of food in that gets left out. Cumberland Farms is a good place when it comes to their dumpsters, or at least it was last time that we were desperately poor. My parents would use that. They would buy me food, but they would use that for themselves, which is nice. And they weren't horrible. They just believed things that were not true. So, yeah, that is... those are some advice that I can give you about how to survive in poverty. Try to cut living expenses down, which is wicked hard. So, transportation, you might want a small car. If you have a big one, that's a that's that's room for improvement in your budget. Get a smaller one if you can. Trade in what you have. Not even trading it in, like actually with a dealer, but I'm sure that there are websites that you can go on for used cars to trade in one for another. And if you have a car that bleeds you money because it's a gas guzzler, you might want to move to something smaller. You might want to move to a place that's further away from where you work, which is sad because of the commuting that you have to do, especially if if your work allows you to work from home, which the government doesn't, but they can't magically make everybody back to the office in the private sector. I'm just throwing ideas out there. I'm sure there are a million other ideas. Park Rose Permaculture is really good about this. I'm sure there are a million other ideas that you can use as to how to live poor. So, that is some good news there. It was, relatively, because the alternatives is so much worse. The tariffs. So the waffling is a little bit concerning. The fact that he wasn't ready to just completely crash the economy, because he might actually have some level of smarts. And he still has dementia. I'm going to talk about and maybe provide a link to a speech that he made that shows some more of his obvious signs of Alzheimer's or another degenerative disease in the brain that he has. But it's very concerning that this guy, someone, and I forgot who it was that I was listening to on the news, said that what he might be intending to do, and this is actually a frightening thing, because it could show some level of strategy, and if this guy was remotely competent, again, we would have no chance. So, it's quite concerning that there are people that have said that a possible motivation for why he might want to do these tariffs is so that company is not to crash the economy, crash it a little bit, but then have all of the companies that make up the stock market. The economy itself will suck more for regular people, but the stock market, not so much, because all the companies come to Trump personally and kiss his A and give him favors and give him your data, which is why I don't use, which is why I refuse to use Google's cloud backup services anymore. And in exchange for that, the economy doesn't crash, the trains still come on time, it's still easy to buy stuff, you still have to exercise discipline in order to do any kind of boycott, rather than letting him give you your own boycott without having to put any effort into it. Like, the more competent this guy is, and that would be a show of competence, the better people we have to be. And I don't really think that we have it in us. Not yet. Just realistically. I don't think, over time, again, I have a life. Sorry. Over time, I have, over time, I think we can build more strength, and we have to. I think that it's going to require that we face our historical wounds, though, which is going to be hard for a lot of people. I should put this thing on airplane mode. So, yeah, I really would love it if Trump could still crash the economy, and maybe he still will, and if he could still give us a nice running start, because again, as his opponents, because again, we really. I have a previous video, by the way, describing why I think that the economy was not something that we really, we needed to face some kind of pain. I've explained that in an earlier video. I believe that it was my video on my last Saturday fireside. I released it last Saturday morning. I recorded it on Friday. It was the last video that I made before I got sick. So, I explained that. It's actually a very complicated reason. There's a lot of frightening things, especially with the way that AI is being used right now. And so there are long-term reasons. This is not just partisanship and FAFO. Like, I don't really care for that shit, actually. Pardon my French. I don't really care for it. But for the FAFO and for the partisanship, because people do suffer, but there are long-term reasons why we needed to struggle. So, but I just hope that it's real struggling and not more monopolization and a bunch of companies kowtow to Trump. That's not what we need. That's the opposite of what we need. Anyway, so on to the next point of news. The Supreme Court, it's been doing this continuously. Every single time that they put that any kind of judge puts what's it called? Puts a temporary restraining order, a TRO, on anything that this, or an enjoinment on anything that this White House does, the Supreme Court gets us all scared by shutting down the TRO and blocking the lower court order, and then at the last minute comes back in and saves the day. And I don't quite know why this is. It might be, they might be doing it for Trump, or they might in order to to throw us off balance. They're doing the right thing in the end each time, and they did it again with this man that was illegally renditioned to El Salvador. But or it might be just that they might be trying to throw us off balance. They might be trying to throw Trump off balance, and feed his ego, so that he's less likely to disobey them. I don't know exactly why it is. There is a video that I made a while back, though. That I didn't. It's not a video, actually. It's a comment that I made on somebody else's video, and I will post it in the description. But that comment is about people about judges that are finding it very difficult to say that are finding it very difficult to say no because they're afraid that Trump is already ready to disobey their order and that they don't have the enforcement power. That's what they're concerned about. But they want to preserve the illusion that they have power. I wrote it, and it's really something that's better to be. Actually, I'll read it right now. I'll get it and read it right now because it's something that should be read on its own. So, disclaimer: explanations are not excuses. I'm reading it. The reason why they wouldn't do that is the possibility that, number one, judge gives order to U.S. Marshals. Number two, Pam Bondi, who is in the chain of command of U.S. Marshals, says no. 3, every lawyer in the country whose job is to sue the government loses their job instantly. Nobody bothers to sue the government anymore. The entire court system doesn't matter in terms of actually restricting the power of the rest of the government, and the entire legal front of the opposition to Trump becomes a rout. So that is the scenario that people are talking about. Now, if that's going to happen, that is going to happen. It's not something that we are going to stop by walking on eggshells. So, again, it's not an excuse. So, that was editorializing. Anyway, and I editorialize my own stuff all the time. Now remember how explanations are not excuses. This is a solemn judgment call. You need to decide what time it is that you do that you potentially set that off. You need to have lines of communication with civil society to get the word out very fast that the rule of law is officially worthless. The mainstream media will not be your friend. They're just as scared as you are. It's a Rubicon moment. As a general rule, though, it's better to make these decisions sooner rather than later. It's better to, ideally you're going to do it with a plan, but all other things being equal, it's better to make the decisions sooner. It's good to have a plan, obviously, to make the public aware, and it's an informed decision, but a lot of people seem to actually be paralyzed about it rather than making an informed decision. So that was what I wrote about that. And now they did the right thing again in this case. It went down to the judge. The self-proclaimed Trump administration is still trying to not have to take this guy back from El Salvador, pretending that it doesn't know where he is. Maybe it's not even pretending. Maybe it's weaponized incompetence. But they're still doing this, and the judge is right now building a paper trail. So the video that I'm going to link you to is out of date slightly. The judge is currently building a paper trail to issue a contempt citation. That's what most legal scholars have been saying. So I will put in the description a video, a link to a video that talks about business ethics, or at least mentions them. Business ethics and authoritarian creep, and that businesses and basically the idea is that businesses are not ready for modern authoritarianism. They're not ready for the slow erosion of any kind of checks and balances. What they're ready for is a coup, basically. They are ready for a coup. I think, luckily, and this was great news when I heard that from this senator. I think it's Senator Chris Murphy that was saying this. I'm not certain. I will provide a correction in the description if I'm wrong. But this senator, who had direct contact with a lot of business leaders, which in general is not good that they have that, but he was able to say publicly that they were ready to basically engage in massive resistance if the regime, and these were statements, so they might be more cowardly than they think they are, but they have said that they're ready to engage in massive resistance if Trump just disobeys a direct order of the court and does a coup of sorts. If he does that they'll be able to, they're ready, several businesses at least are ready to engage in massive resistance. That is some very good news that I heard this week. So, the SAVE Act just passed the House. We gotta fight like heck to keep it out of the Senate. The SAVE Act will disenfranchise a bunch of married women, which is awful. Anybody who changed their names, it will disenfranchise them. Supposedly it's to prove American citizenship. BS. ICE has databases to do that. You don't need... They can tell if you're an immigrant or not, or if you're an American citizen. I don't know. I don't want to find out. It's very unpredictable. There's a chance, and they have better statisticians than me. There's a theoretical chance that it could blow up in their faces. There are two reasons why why that's not an excuse to let it go through. One of them, and by the way, it's in a separate bill. This is not the budget reconciliation, thank God. And so this will pass. That will like almost certainly pass. This won't. The budget reconciliation, this won't. It's subject to the filibuster. It's a separate bill, thank God. And so we cannot let this pass. It doesn't matter that we don't know exactly what the effects would be yet on the actual outcome. And one, it's just wrong to disenfranchise people, period. Two, they have better statisticians than I do, than any of us do. They can afford to predict it out. They might have fine-tuned this deliberately in order to... It's a pretty long bill. They may have deliberately fine-tuned this in order to make it not blow up in their face. And three, even if it did blow up in their face, it would promote some of the worst aspects of the Democratic Party that I talk about all the time in my paper, and I'm going to talk about them again. It will do that. I don't want... And so I don't want to find out, basically. I do not want to find out how this affects future elections. It seems pretty flimsy as far as rigging elections goes. It's an attempt, but it scares the shit out of me nonetheless. So, stop this fucking thing. Stop it. Like, even if it loses Republicans' elections, it will still make it will still lead towards worse Democrats, more unlikable Democrats, winning primaries, people that are the very reason we're in this mess in the first place. So we gotta fight like hell and stop this. And the Senate is a crapshoot. This shouldn't be able to pass because of the filibuster, but it could, if the same proportion of senators as representatives, which were only 4, which would basically be 1 senator, not even. If the proportions were the same, we would be okay. But again, we can't guarantee that because the Senate is a crapshoot. So you have to write letters. Even if you have a great senator like Senator Elizabeth Warren that you trust, email them and tell them to whip their voters. Because, like, not voters, to whip their colleagues, because leadership such as Jeffries, and Jeffries is doing better, leadership like Schumer just does not know how to do that. So you gotta get on the phone / email them. I'm good at writing long form, and so I mainly email these people. But and that is, and I think that my emails pack a big punch. But if you like to write shorter stuff, you might want to just call them, because calls they do bother them more, and that's the point. So play to your strengths, but make sure that you're getting in touch with your electeds and your senators in particular. Get this thing stopped, because it is such a danger to not just the Democratic Party, which is important right now because it's a bulwark against Trump to some degree, but against the best parts of it. So, finally, Trump made a speech. They're kissing my ass. They're kissing my ass. Which I don't use, but he did. They are dying to make a deal. They are dying to make a deal. I will send you the link to the full speech on Midas Touch Network, which is one of those 24-hour news networks. I don't personally watch them a lot because they're 24-hour news, and I don't think that is the best way to get information now. But this particular speech will just checks in to how much Alzheimer's, or whatever else it is that he has, this guy has, and this speech should comfort you. This is not somebody. If you wanted anybody in the world to have a vendetta out against your life, it would be this person, because this guy is so incompetent, and you can see it in the speech. So that's it for this week. For the news this week, I'm gonna be probably they're probably gonna be uploaded at the same time, uploading a video of my reading from my paper, which will be either the last or not the last, either the second or third last. We're getting near the end of that. I will be doing a reading, and that'll be it for this week. See you next week if this is the last one that you watched, unless some emergency happens in the meantime. And God bless you all. I hope for the best. We're all gonna need it. I love you. Goodbye.